Now it's time to bring on our special guest. This man is a distinguished alumnus of both the UNL School of Journalism and Mass Communications, Lincoln Southeast High School as well. He has been honored by his peers as Nebraska's Sportscaster of the Year 3 times and has earned multiple first-place awards for his commentary by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association. Mr. Jim Rose, how you doing, my friend?
You read that just as I wrote it out for you, brother.
Dude, it was like word for word. Don't worry, I didn't wrinkle the $100 bill you gave me either. So what are you up to nowadays? A lot of people, have been following what you're doing. Some people haven't heard you for a while. Okay, so what are you up to nowadays? Where can they find Jim Rose? I know you're doing a podcast quite frequently now.
Yeah, well, I'm still on KFAB, the Big Blowtorch up in Omaha every morning, now 23 years. They somehow allow me in every day, I guess because I bring my own money. Maybe that's but no, it's great. It's awesome. And it's a great station. It's been around 100 years. Signal goes to Timbuktu, so that's cool. That's kind of the extent right now of my broadcast deal. I do a podcast off of that, too, every day, Adam. And so I enjoy that. That's kind of the extent right now of what I'm doing from a broadcasting standpoint. I'm not fully involved in a day-to-day broadcasting career as I once was. And then I also do some philanthropic work, and I do development work for small, medium-sized nonprofits. And I ran the Nebraska Greats Foundation for 5 years, which was awesome. Really enjoyed that. Met a lot of great people. Helped put that place, on some solid ground. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I just kind of go from thing to thing and help out where I can.
All right. So remind the fine folks out there, you talked Nebraska football, you talked Husker sports, you covered a lot of these games, you broadcasted them. What years were you doing, let's say, Nebraska football specifically?
Well, I was on the crew from 93 through 99. I was on the sidelines, and then I was up in the booth, which was a good time. That was a good time to be doing Husker football. And then I was in Kansas City for a couple of years and then came back. And then in 2002, took over the games through 2007. And I did the broadcast from 2000. And Adam Carriker was one of the players, so I used to make up stuff about him on the air, about how great he was on the field and everything. And that was fun. But I did Husker baseball from 1990 to 99, then came back and did the Husker baseball team through 2007. So I did over 600 Nebraska baseball broadcasts, and trust me, in the early days, it was not a great gig. We weren't great, and the stadiums weren't very nice. It's the lap of luxury now. But I had a great time, met some great people, became friends with wonderful athletes, guys like Johnny Dorn and Shane Comine and Alex Gordon, and just a really, really outstanding collection of people, coaches like Dave Van Horn and Rod Childress, and, of course, the Husker guys, that great run in the 90s with Tommy and Brooke and Amon Green and all those great defensive players, Wistrom and Peter, and just a wonderful, wonderful time to be a Husker. And then, of course, Crouch later in his career, early in his career, and Eric and I became friends, and he's obviously one of the very best. So very blessed to be around some great athletes, people that I really enjoyed being around, and people that taught me a lot about the game, coaches and athletes.
Well, you've obviously had a phenomenal career so far, as you mentioned. You're still doing your thing each and every day up in Omaha, so go check out what Mr. Jim Rose is doing. I appreciate that you would make up nice things about me when I was playing as well. Yeah. I always appreciate that. I do remember you on a few flights that we took as a team. Yeah. So I remember you were always, we never sat next to each other, but you were always up towards the front of the plane. So I do recall that as well. Talk to me about 90 to 99, 02 to 07. What are some memories from all those Husker interactions, games, everything you used to go to? What are some of your favorite memories during those time frames?
Well, there were obviously when the Huskers were going 60-3. Mm-hmm. That was a good stretch, I mean, every day we were the talk of the town. And every day across college football, it started and ended with Nebraska. And we had a system in place that was the envy of everybody. We had coaches who had been there and were established, guys like Mel Tenniper and Charlie McBride, obviously Coach, Frank, Ron Brown. These guys were established as the very best in the business. So every day we just woke up and came to work thinking we're going to win the national championship. And that if we don't win the national championship, something in the polarity of the earth is wrong. Mm-hmm. Or if we lose a game, we didn't lose. We just ran out of time. I mean, that literally was the attitude. associated with Nebraska football. In fact, I was talking to Joel Makovic about that the other day. I saw Joel, we kind of reminisced, walked down memory lane. He's another one of them. So just being around those guys, and obviously the championship games, the Orange Bowl victories, the conference championship game victories, where we would beat these guys, and it just became part of our DNA. And I think a lot of Nebraskans came to believe, Adam, that there's some sort of magic dust over Memorial Stadium where we will always win. I was there when we had a 47-game home field win streak. It was finally snapped by Texas and Ricky Williams, but it was just a great experience to be around some terrific people who committed body and soul to winning the championship, not just winning the game, but winning the championship for Nebraska. Banners, hanging up numbers on the side of the stadium. That was really important. The Missouri victory down in 97, the little freshman from Tecumseh was at the right place at the right time. That was a thrilling moment. But all of Eric Crouch's plays were just so thrilling, and Tommy's plays, and the great backs that we had, the unbelievable running backs. Lawrence Phillips is, pound for pound, by these eyes, the greatest individual running back Nebraska's ever had, and he's probably in the class with the Rodgers as the greatest players that Nebraska's ever produced. But you would watch LP, and you'd see just a remarkable physical specimen, a guy who was 6'2", 215, 220 pounds, who ran like he was 120 pounds. He had incredible agility, incredible balance, remarkable toughness. So that was awesome. The baseball program, I was really lucky because I got to grow with the baseball program. The baseball program was at the bottom of the Big 12 conference when Dave Van Horn got here. And I recall having lunch with him right after he got the job. And he got the job fairly late in the game. I think he got the job in December, and the season started just a couple of months later. And so he didn't have much chance to recruit. But I remember talking to him, and I remember him saying, I didn't come to Nebraska to get the next job. I came to Nebraska to get to the College World Series. And I go, have you looked around? And he goes, oh, yeah. And I said, look at that ballpark. That ballpark is half a practice football field. It's not even a baseball stadium. It's an area. It's a baseball area. And he said, oh, I get it. And then he proceeded to talk to me about how he was successful as a player. He was not a great athlete, but he was a tremendously competitive dude. And he had a lifetime batting average, and I looked it up. He had a lifetime batting average of .330 against Roger Clemens and .329 against Calvin Schiraldi. And these were two great major league pitchers. Well, Van Horn, playing for Arkansas, went up against them all the time because they were Texas Longhorns. And he had a lifetime batting average that was about 50 points higher than anybody else against those two guys because he was such a competitor. So he explained to me how it was they were going to win the championship and how they were going to get to Omaha. And by his third year, he was in a top 8 national seed. By the year 2000, Nebraska was champion of the Big 12, champion of the Big 12 tournament, and a top 8 national seed. And if they had any kind of a ballpark at home, they would have hosted throughout the playoffs. Instead, they had to go on the road because Buck Belcher Field at the time couldn't accommodate an NCAA tournament. So he's a top 8 national seed by his third year. He's in the College World Series by his fourth year. And he goes back in his fifth year with a team that did not have, frankly, the kind of material you typically need to get to the series. But they were tough, and they were competitive, and they just had a mentality. And it was wonderful to watch those guys. And, of course, after that, you had the great talent come through here. Alex Gordon was a fantastic player, one of the very best we've ever had. And great pitchers. They were all Omaha kids, all Nebraska kids. Jabba Chamberlain, and Ryan Dunsing, who spent 10 years in Major League Baseball. He was really terrific. Daniel Bruce, really good outfielder. Brian Worley, outstanding shortstop. We just had really good people, and we were committed. And then when Hawks Field opened, then Nebraska was in the national elite. So I was around at a fun time, and I look back on those years with wonderful fondness.
That's a lot of awesome memories, and the amount of time that you spent around the football and baseball program were phenomenal times. Obviously, a lot of time. It's funny, I interviewed Eric Crouch earlier this year, and I asked him what his favorite play was. And because you brought up Eric, and some of his plays. You got the throwback from Mike Stuntz versus
The
Oklahoma.
41 backslash.
Yeah, you got the 96-yard run versus Missouri, which somehow doesn't get played as much. I don't quite understand that, but I think it's just the other plays were awesome. But he said his favorite was running over the Iowa defender. Like, that is his favorite play to this day, and that is such a Nebraska answer, and I freaking loved it. All right.
And that was a great highlight. Yeah, he just blasted that guy. That guy had a horrible angle, and he thought, well, this is just a skinny white guy from Omaha. This guy made no problem. He had the bad angle. Of course, Eric would lower his shoulder and just blasted the dude. I mean, knocked him into Sunday. And that was a real highlight. It was for me, it was a little personal, Adam, because, I grew up in Lincoln, and I just idolized the ball club growing up. And all those years when I went to school, when I was in school down there, we had the triplets in there, Turner and Rozier and Fryer, and I got to know those guys later in life and love them all. Frank Solich was my high school driver's ed teacher when he was a head coach at Southeast High. So I've known Frank since I was 15. And, you can't buy that. That's good luck. That's not me, putting myself in position to be around great people. That's just good luck. And so I'm very appreciative, thankful of that. It was a blessing for me.
So you've obviously been very busy doing a lot of things just in different areas. So 02 to 07 was your last tenure covering Husker football. I'm just out of curiosity, what caused the change and what caused you to do something else? Obviously, you're having just as much success doing other things, but I'm just curious what caused the change.
Well, it was a combination of things. And I think anybody who's in the business or who commits body and soul to their job and their career can appreciate this. But at the time, in 2006, 2007, I was not only doing the Husker broadcast, but I was also doing the morning show on KFAB. And I was also the leading producer at IMG College, which was the national marketing firm that owned Husker Sports. And I was doing the TV coaches shows for football, basketball, and baseball, and the Husker broadcast, the Husker baseball broadcast, which is 70-plus ball games. And pretty soon, I looked around at my life, and I saw that I had an 11-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and I didn't know who the hell they were, and they didn't know who the hell I was. And it was pretty clear to me that I was way out of balance, that this was not good for them, and it was not going to be good for me. And I looked at some of my friends in the business who had gone through multiple marriages and whose kids had really struggled. And I think partly because they weren't home much. They were busy chasing ball games. So I'd been in the business 25 years at that point. I'd worked in television in Wichita, and I'd worked in radio in Kansas City, doing Royals business and doing a talk show in Kansas City. And so I figured, after 25 years, I think you've given sportscasting a little bit too much time. So, I had kind of a come to Jesus with myself. And at the time, IMG was expanding its footprint in Nebraska, not just the broadcast, but they were also selling stadium signs and the internet and television program commercials and other stuff. And so I think I had a chance. I was lucky. I was one of those guys that had a chance to transition into something else without having to change fields and without having to move. And I just thought there was a sign in it, and I took it. And even though someone said, "Well, how do you give up a job like the voice of the Huskers?" And the answer was because I, number one, never really saw myself defined by that. It's a great gig. I worked hard at it. I worked hard to get to where I was, but I never really defined myself as a play-by-play announcer. And I just had other things that needed my attention. So I looked at it like, sure, I missed it. Sure, I miss it today. But it was the right thing to do. And as I look back now, I think I have a better relationship with my kids and my wife and my friends and God and all of the other components of my life that if I had said, no, this is it for me. Voice of the Huskers is it, man. That's what I was put on this earth to do. If I'd done that, I think I'd have a lot of regrets today.
So in my own way, I can completely appreciate that, respect that. There was about a year and a half ago, I was doing 4 shows from here on the Ticket to the Chronicles. I had the Carriker live show on Sunday nights that I was doing, and I was just asked to do a Big Ten show. So I was doing 4 shows. And part of it was just figuring out, what was going to stick, what wasn't. There comes a point in time where there's only so much time in a day. And you got to prioritize things. And even right now, like there is constant breaking Nebraska news. And sometimes I'm on top of it. Sometimes I'm not. Like sometimes I'll do a show right when it happens. Sometimes it doesn't come out till the next day. There was, I forget what day it was, 3 days ago. The family and I were sitting down to watch a Christmas movie, the best Christmas pageant ever. I think I talked about it the next day here on the station, and some breaking news happened. And I looked at my wife and I said, we'll get to it tomorrow. And so I'm with you. Like it's hard because the instinct as a guy who wants to be the best he can, and what I'm doing, just like you, is we got to go do it. And then you look around and it's like, yeah, I've got 6 kids, and yes, our life is insanely busy, but these moments that we're about to spend together, they're few and far and they're precious. And to be honest with you, my real job is the family Uber driver. So the fact that we had everybody together was like, I wasn't going to miss that, and I wasn't going to prioritize something else. So anyways, I appreciate your time. This has been fun. This has been enlightening, and I thank you for joining me.
Anytime, big boy. And no, truly, Adam was one of the more underrated defensive linemen we've ever had in Nebraska, and his career in the NFL, I think, proves that. And I'm so glad that you're back. It's great to have so many former Huskers here, not only as walking symbols of our success, but also guys that really care about the program and preach that. So I'm glad you're doing it, man, and I hope you keep it up.
I appreciate it, and go check out everything that Jim is doing. And again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
All right, see you soon.